Warning, this video may contain spoilers for the TV show or movie that we discuss in this video. If you have not yet watched the TV show or movie that this video is about, please come back to the video at a later time after you have watched the content that was discussed. You have been warned. How's it going, everybody? This is Rob of Novakast, and I'm going to do another Let's Watch video, and this one's actually really interesting. Because this one follows that of, or at least this is a Netflix original, I guess you could say. And I've been kind of intrigued by this. Like, I've been wanting to watch it. This is Netflix's Dracula, and oh my gosh, I gotta say, this has been a really interesting show to watch. Though I have to give my biggest complaint, and that's when you have an episode that's like almost the length of a movie. And I noticed that shows like Game of Thrones started doing this, where like the episodes are like almost an hour and a half long, like an hour and a half, and it takes a long time, and they put so much crap into one episode, which is why I kind of liked when they started doing shows like Mandalorian for Disney Plus, where the episodes are like 30 minutes long and kind of short, episodic. If that makes sense. But this one, I will say, it was interesting, to say the least, considering there was a lot of details that the characters go through. And it follows kind of like the original story in a sense, where you have the lawyer that goes to Transylvania. He is literally trapped inside Dracula's castle. And he recounts his time there. Now, the interesting thing is, with this version, he is trapped in this convent and is being interrogated by these nuns, which something was off about one of them, because in this bag that she carries there's wooden stakes and stuff that would take out a vampire. So all in all, it starts off with a really interesting note, and he goes off again talking about the recounting his dealings with Dracula. One of the interesting things I will say that was really cool was the progression, like how he goes from the way he was to being a normal human being to slowly aging, giving life to Dracula in some sense. Dracula taking that from him and him becoming younger, and you see that progression. In, I would say, in earlier versions, you never saw that. You see the characters at one point, and then see them crazed or mutilated in the next. So it was intriguing and kind of refreshing to see that progression. As well as seeing some of the other things that was going on in the castle, like what happens to some of the other people that Dracula has not killed, for instance, like him putting them in boxes. Those people that he has no need for. He goes into the whole thing about having brides, which I guess in his case, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, he considers you a bride. But all in all, he has these like 3 boxes, and like it was a creepy scene, because you have these. He goes like Jonathan Hawker, if I said his name correctly, is like trying to go inside the castle, go through it, try to find all these secret entrances. He finds a map goes into this room, and the woman vampire captures him, drains some of his life essence. She gets killed, and he is slowly recounting the things that he's done and had to do to survive, which, spoiler alert, he doesn't. In fact, Dracula snaps his neck and you find out that he becomes an undead. But Dracula is intrigued by him, so he tries to turn him, in some sense. Now, that doesn't work, because apparently we find out that Dracula might be afraid of the cross, though we don't know why. And with this episode, especially with the nuns, and we find out that one of the nuns is a Helsing, which I'm kind of curious on what that will follow. Like, maybe we'll meet the original Helsing. But you have this character Mina, who was supposed to be the fiance of Johnny, or Jonathan Hawker, who ends up, having to leave him because he is overcome by her blood when Dracula begins to attack the convent. And there was a really cool part. There was a really cool part with this episode where they play with the idea of the rules of being a vampire. Like, they can't enter a structure without being invited. They are afraid of crosses. They have to be killed by a stake through the heart. They play with these ideas, and I love that the character who you find out is Helsing is like, kind of doing these little experiments, figuring out, okay, what makes Dracula tick. So it was intriguing to see all that. Now, do they succeed in, like, trying to save Johnny and Mina and defeating Dracula? No. I think I'm gonna go into that. No. He does get in eventually. I'm not gonna spoil that much. He does get in, and it is a complete bloodbath. Actually, they also do the whole thing where he is able to control animals. There's this really crazy scene in the episode where, when he shows up, the nun the Helsing that is, and she dresses up as the nun, a nun the entire time, addresses him as Dracula, and sure enough, he like freaking emerges from the wolf, and the way they do it is so grotesque. It's so freaking cool. I enjoyed it. In a really creepy way. I enjoyed that whole transition, or transformation, you could say. The way he went from this elderly, like, near-death Transylvania to this sophisticated British guy through the moments where they're in the castle was great too. So all in all, I'm intrigued and I want to watch more. And it looks like, and I was looking at it, says season 1, episode 1, so there could be more of this, but who knows. For now though, I think I'm going to watch the next episode because I'm curious. I'm extremely curious.